Hey everybody, Bart here. Exciting news. This weekend I received a kettlebell in the mail, and so I'm going to make a few short videos on beginning kettlebell exercises, intermediate kettlebell exercises, and advanced kettlebell exercises. So if you've never used a kettlebell before, first you have to get comfortable using it. So it has the top, which I call the bell or the horn. Then you have the ball or the bell, depends on how you want to look at it. There's many different ways to hold on to it. Today I'm going to focus on the easiest exercises first. Now, when you're first starting to work with the kettlebell, the safest way is to just get used to it by working with low weighted exercises. So it could be a 2-arm or a single arm. The first exercise that makes the most sense to go over would be a wide-legged deadlift. So I'll step out wide like a sumo wrestler. I'll turn my toes apart. I'll unlock my knees, I'll hinge my hips, and I'll drop my chest towards the floor. So we covered this in lifting. So this is a lift or a wide deadlift. Sometimes we'll call it a sumo deadlift. You can do this with 2 hands. As you get a little bit more adept, you can start practicing it with 1 hand. You'll get a little bit of trunk rotation in there, and it'll start to work lower back muscles, hamstring muscles, and ab muscles. All right. Now, as we get a little bit more comfortable, we might have the weight up a little higher. So we could do goblet squats. We can hold the weight here. We can hold the weight here. It doesn't really matter, it just depends on how you're comfortable with it. Now, unlike the sumo position, my feet will be a little close together. I'll have that same flare for the toes. Now, when I do my squat, unlike the lift, I drop my hips back and down. So I hinge my hips. The hips drop lower, not below the knees. I put all the weight in my heels, where my center of gravity is. So I have my hips hinge. I put the weight back in my heels, and I hold the weight. I can do a more narrow squat, like a partial squat with hands low as well. I can do a sumo squat with 2 hands. I can do a sumo squat with 1 hand, and that's more of a partial squat. You got to get really low. You got to tell your hips to go with it. Now, as I start to move up the body, those were lower body dominant, but when you're holding a kettlebell, you can't help but get forearm, wrist, and small hand muscles in there as well. Now we might work into bicep curls. Same idea. I can hold low. I can hold high, or I'm working up with 2 hands to start. Now, if you have an 8-pound, 10-pound, 15-pound, 18-pound, you can work on single arm biceps. However, you'll find that it's much harder than your free weight. The center of gravity of the weight is very different. And so I'd start with a lighter kettlebell with single arm bicep curls. And with the heavier bicep curls, I do 2 hands. Now, after our bicep curls, we have upright rows. So our upright rows, we can just do standing, butterfly elbows, wrists under the chin. I'd inhale down, and I'd exhale up. As in all these exercises, when I exert force, I breathe out. So as I'm loading into the squat, I'll inhale, and I'll exhale. When my hands are low in the upright row, I'll inhale, exhale. Next, I might combine those 2 exercises, so doing a sumo high pull, so it could be a squat, it could be a deadlift, so I can work more of a lift, dropping the chest, coming up into that high pull, or that upright row, or I can do more of a squat, and I can come down into that upright row. Now, as far as beginnings go, that's a very good start. I'll talk about 2 more exercises, specifically the side bend and trunk rotation. So for the side bend, we've covered this in some earlier videos before. I'm going to have my feet underneath my hips. Here is my handle. Here is my spout. I'm a little teapot. There's your little joke. I'll drop my right ear over. I'll look up left. I'll inhale, drop my right arm low. And then I'll stand up. Now, if I'm doing side bends, especially during the quarantine, I'd limit yourself to 2 sets of 10 each side, a couple times a week. There's no need to overdo the side bend. Now, if you've kept very active in your core routine, 3 or 4 sets of 10, 2 times a week's perfect. Now, we've covered side bend, covered bicep curls, sumo deadlifts. We could cover the regular deadlift, where my feet are more narrow, just like my side bend. We've covered that single arm sumo. I can do that from the deadlift position. My toes are parallel in a deadlift. My toes are not parallel in a squat or even the wide sumo deadlift position. Now, last in our beginning video, we'll cover side rotation. So in this one, I'm working on keeping my knees bent, but they don't go with me. So I'm just gonna turn. And I can always start this with a 5-pound dumbbell. And if I have access to lighter kettlebells, I could go there. 25 pounds might be a lot to start. So you might grab a gallon of water or some other improvised weight. Now with this rotation, it's just upper body. It's just trunk and above. The knees are pointed forward, not going with me. All right, so now we've covered the side bend, that trunk rotation, the deadlift, goblet squat, low weighted squat, sumo deadlift. I think that's a good place, in the upright row. Good place to stop for our first video. All right, tune into the intermediate and advanced.